This clip is brought to you by BackThatOnline.com.
Peace, family. So it's your boy Fonzie representing for BackThatOnline.com. And this week we join with a super exclusive special guest all the way from the West, Reggie Wright Jr. What's good, Reggie King?
Shout out. Much respect. Thanks for having me.
Much love, man. We appreciate you tapping in with your fans out here in the UK and around the world. But I just want to definitely salute you off top because not only do I do podcasting and stuff as well, I'm an avid watcher of a lot of other platforms, including Bomb First, and a lot of the interviews and stuff that you put out there, I think is very powerful and informative. That for the person that you are and where you've been, you give us an accurate depiction of things that are going on, which is good for us, man.
Much respect. Thank you. Thanks for the support out there. Got a lot of people that support in the UK, and I really appreciate y'all over there across the pond, as y'all call it. And I don't know what's going on with y'all over there. I heard y'all been having a little mini war going on over there, and I know y'all trying to unseat y'all president. I don't know what y'all think about wars, but we like wars over here. So yeah, but go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say there is a lot of craziness, which I suppose we'll get into in the course of some of this conversation, because some people feel as though a lot of the gangsterism that now has been adopted within the UK, like gang culture, we've even got, red and blue in different capacities and stuff. People take the influence that obviously, it came from the States. And when we think about one of the biggest forms of influence, music being that, and then we think of one of the biggest labels for that, that would be Death Row Records, a label that you have had the opportunity to be a major part of and stuff. So we want to go back a bit. We understand that you grew up in Compton and stuff. Your father was noted to be a member of Compton PD, Reggie Wright Sr. and stuff. Can you detail a bit of you growing up in Compton and stuff, what that was like?
Man, growing up in Compton was great. Didn't know you was poor. You just... Shit, it was nothing that you couldn't have, that you didn't want, that you didn't shoot for, that you didn't eventually get, I remember we used to make our skateboards with a piece of cardboard and then tear off the roller skates and stuff like that. And then the plastic skateboards came out, and we started getting those and, having the milk cartons and cutting them in half and putting some skates on them and riding up and down the street. With those and milk cartons and playing basketball with a trash can in the backyard and not a basketball goal. But man, you can't take those childhood days from us, man. Growing up was cool. You didn't know that was a problem until only thing you had to worry about was when those street lights start blinking, you better start running home because moms and pops was looking for you once. You better be home before the street lights come on. So that's how my childhood was. And, playing, of course, they had more things for the kids back then where you can go and be in like marching bands if you want to be in marching bands, or if you want to do intramural sports like baseball or football or basketball. You could do all of those sports and you rode your bike to practice. Shit, now the poor parents, they got to take you and drop you off and sit there and watch you because you got all the molesters out there or just because of transportation, and you don't want your kids to go nowhere because, everybody want to sit and be like you and be in that little studio and playing on the TVs or the computers all day. But when we was growing up, Mama used to be like, get up, get out of here, get out of the house. Don't come home till the street lights come on. We didn't have no TV shows. Everything was regular. Of course, we had Tom and Jerry and all of them that used to come on TV. And Bugs Bunny and Road Runner and all of that. You got tired of that. And so it wasn't much on TV to be sitting at home watching. So, man, childhood, as I remember, was getting out, getting in the streets, man.
No doubt. And that's dope to even hear a different slice and perspective of things, because we would know that the culture and the community would sort of change over the years.
Well, the gang activity started, to be honest, but back then they used to just fight. They used to just jump when you get caught out of territory. and then you'll start having problems. Like you, you knew when you was in a area that you was taking a chance, but you know that usually that girl just look too good, and you just want to go over there and go in her neighborhood. But that's how our gang area grew up. That drive-by shooting and all of that stuff didn't start until the crack cocaine era started, when guys were standing on the streets, and you're talking about the mid '80s, and selling that dope and that narcotics, and then that's when the territory started being big, and the shooting started happening, and that was generally because guys was coming to trying to sell dope in their area, and people was like, "Oh no, you ain't gonna come set up block in our area," and that's what brought on the gang violence and the shootings and the tactics and stuff like that. Was mainly for territory to push their narcotic or whatever trade that they were trying to do. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, I guess even you being young around that time and seeing things just change and develop, as you said, you remember being young and not necessarily having to worry about being out on the streets at a certain time, and the community being somewhat safer. Is that something that I guess aided your journey into getting into law enforcement to want to continue to keep the community safe, or was it more of a just a continuation in like your father's footsteps at the time?
Generation. That's all this admiring and growing up and wanting to be like dad, be like my role model. And I did have a aspiration to be a lawyer, to go on to college and be an attorney and stuff. But luckily, or unfortunately, I got hired on at an early age and started to excel in law enforcement and started making a little money and acquiring things. And was like, oh well, I'll just be a police officer, and grew up in that department, and got stagnated or stuck, and so that's what happened to me on that. But it was mainly because of trying to be like pops.
Okay. And we definitely want to shout out to your pops. He's definitely well respected and stuff out there. I've recently seen him on an interview with Lonzo as well. Shout out to Lonzo. That was a good interview that those guys did. So I mean, fast forward then, I guess from that slightly, what would lead you to form Right Way Security, and how did you then meet Suge Knight and start pulling things together with your early beginnings with Death Row?
Well, Suge and I have been knowing each other since he was in the third grade, I was in the second grade. And so, we played a lot of sports and activities together and growing up, but we wasn't like childhood boys where we was hanging out with each other, but we knew of each other. And we lived in the same area, and we, played uh uh baseball at Kelly Park and stuff like that together as in elementary. And then, but he and our situation was a little unique because we went on to the same junior high school. And so we kind of got a little cooler because we was like the only two kids from Compton, or very few kids from Compton that was going to Linwood High, which is, like the next district over. And then we all went on to Linwood High School together. And so that's why our relationship got a little bit better or closer, just because of that history of growing up together. But so we knew each other prior to the Death Row and stuff came. But what happened is we went on to college, went on to different schools, playing football, and our paths kind of like spread it apart, and then kind of met back together. What I mean by that, because now I'm working in the law enforcement. He went and had a little sneak in a professional football league. Football, not that stuff y'all call football, kickball.
Soccer.
Y'all get mad, but tackle football. Let me just say it that way.
Yeah,
And
we got rugby, man, and this is rugby. They don't wear no helmets or nothing.
I got you. But I always throw a jack when we call football. People think football, talking about soccer. Nah, we ain't talking about no soccer. But anyway, but no, that's a rough sport. And shoot, the fans are even rougher. So you don't play at those soccer games. Trust me, I know. But anyway, So he went and did a little bit of that, and then he started doing some music promoting and bodyguard work and working for promoters and stuff like that in the music business. Caught his break, got the DOC, and then eventually he went and got a Dr. Dre and all of them, and started the record company Death Row Records. Started being successful. I'm over there doing my thing, working in law enforcement and all of that. And then so we got some intel that some things was about to happen to him, meaning my father, and we brought it to him. And that's when he was like, "Man, come on, y'all need to be over here with me. Come on, work for me. I'm doing good. Life is good right now." And me, I'm young. His in that age bracket. Had a little issue with my ankle where I was about to get a retirement anyway, or was considering it, but was having complications. And I was like, okay, let me see what's going on. So I started working around him and hanging around him. Started to like him. Like what I was doing and being around that atmosphere. Then, of course, he business mind. And so he just like, hey, man, why don't you open up your security company? Why don't you do this? And build from there. And then that's when I decided to open up the company, Right Way Protective Services, and started supplying security for Death Row and other ventures, or companies. So yeah, that's how that happened.
Okay. They say that was about 93 that you guys started that. I mean,
94.
It was
Okay.
94. So, there was quite a lot definitely happening with the label then at the time, which I'm sure you would have been privy to. And people can hear you speak about in a lot of different interviews, especially on Bob First and Art of Dialogue as well. So I want to shout out to those guys. And, we want to ask just a bit about what your initial roles and responsibilities then at that time. Was it just more maintaining security and stuff? We know you would later get into having more of a hands-on approach with the music and stuff, which we'll get into. But some of your early roles and responsibilities, was that just mainly around security detail?
Correct. Mainly just working the security and supplying bodyguards or people to be with the artists, and using my friends and my cop connections to expand out the work and to protect them, because they had just had a big lawsuit in a situation with the Snoop trial where their bodyguard wasn't legal to carry a firearm, and that was causing the company or exposing the company to a big lawsuit just because of liability purposes only. And so they just want to be a little bit more professional and to handle it and do the correct thing or do the right thing. And, mainly to save their company for if a situation like that would happen again. And that's how I was able to sell, or that's why they came at me to want more professional guys around, other than just the homeboys off the street walking around carrying the guns and stuff.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember seeing some documentaries way back those days when they used to talk about just the studios, and they were saying, I remember one distinctively RBX, and he was saying they had Crips and Bloods up in there. You can't have that. And, everybody's got their stories to tell about just what the environment and stuff was like just with the recording. So you guys coming in and being able to give it another sense of professionalism is a good thing. Do you feel as though Suge gets a bad rap when it comes to his business acumen? Because when we think about the music business, I always look at it like a lot of artists, not just rappers, haven't always been that privy into the inner workings of the business. But if that's something that he learned the information of and he was able to share with people and help and put things together, do you think sometimes he's not giving his credit for the businessman that he was?
Yeah, I think to be able to get people to work together, and what we always say, red, blue supposed to make green, and just to cross over to make that happen. I think he gets the bad rap or don't get the credit that he deserves to allow both of those things to interact as well as they did, and them as well, because they had to check themselves a lot at the door and being like, okay, I know these dudes are from here, or these dudes represent this, but to be around this, I got to act this way, and be this type of way. And so they all should get credit for that. But I think Suge being at the top of the mount, the head of the snake or whatever, should get the most of the credit because he sure gets all the blame for anything negative that happened. So let's give him the credit for the good things that did happen out of that situation.
And no, definitely, that's real, man. And I mean, not to dwell on obviously the negative situations, but we know that there would be sort of a legacy marred with a lot of controversy. One of the major things being, the death of Tupac, and that subsequently leading to the arrest of Suge. And that was a major change period for the label because, Suge was incarcerated then, and you would then have to step up and start handling a lot more things. Snoop and other artists had left, and there was a lot of stuff going on. What was the time like at that period?
Yeah, well, it was on OJT, on the job training, and so it was just really doing stuff as it came across your desk, and just had to make it happen. And so it was no blueprint, there was no manual to go to read and to say, well, how do you handle this situation, or how do you do that? It was just all about trying to do the right thing and make the right decision. Anybody that said, well, you should have did this, you should have did that, it's easy to sit back and money back quarterback and guess some things. And so I always just say, well, an opinion is like an asshole. We all got one. And so, but yeah, it was a learning experience, especially for somebody that was young and stuff. But I think we're smart enough to sustain. It could have did better, could have did a lot worse, but the doors stayed open during this whole time, and we was able to pay people bills and pay our bills, and that's all that matters in life, in my opinion, is to keep striving, keep moving, serve God, and provide for your family and your kids, which we all were able to continue to do.
Yeah, no, for real. And you guys, even at that time, you talk about just keeping things lit. You kept the lights on, I believe, with the music in form of various different projects. We had the introduction of some new artists, and one of them will be quite controversial in being the realist, which we'll get a bit more into afterwards. But one of the albums released was Too Gangster for Radio. And what I think is interesting, there was a song on there called F Hollywood. And a lot of the stuff that was referenced and spoke about, if we look at even in time with what's happening now in Hollywood and some of the stuff, is quite apt and quite poignant. So I always thought it was quite interesting that Death Row was sort of like speaking on things within the industry that others wouldn't really delve into, and felt that they were kind of blackballed for it in a sense at a time because they were the ones that were daring to kind of question a lot of things.
Yeah, so we just tell them what we saw. We was out there. We was living the life, and we didn't have this internet, and we had it, but it wasn't as popular in social media and the media. All we got our media from was what? Double XL, The Vibe, The Source. When we talk about hip hop, U.S. Newsweek or stuff, or Rolling Stones if they touched us. We got little stuff like that is what we got our media from, and so we was also able to put it out on music. But as y'all see, some of the things that we touched about or talked about on the song eventually came to fruition, to be like, oh yeah, Wade, Jada and Will do like sleeping with other people,
Yep.
or Eddie Murphy,
or Johnny Gill did
Johnny Gill and Eddie Murphy, so. Hey, so we was out there, so we knew what was going on in Hollywood. And now people can see it more because people are exposing themselves, or the media is exposing it more because of the availability to social media now.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, you mentioned that, which I think was a great point, the media not being what it was then. I mean, even myself, we used to get media informed in magazines and some VHSs at the time before they got to DVD. One tape I distinctively remember was Death Row Uncut, and that was released, and it had so much information and little tidbits and stuff in there. And I believe it even was leaking. I don't know if it was actually true, that information to people's houses and stuff like that. And at the time, there was also a few album releases with quite a few disses and stuff towards Dre and stuff. With Suge being locked up, was that a call that the label was just making, or was that coming from the head up, like, let's just stay back and these guys?
He gave final approval to everything. I'm not going to sit up here and try to, but you still got to get it done. You can go until grandma can call you right now and tell you, son, make the chicken soup like this. Like, this is how you make your dressing. You still got to go in there and make that dressing, right? So who do you give credit to? Grandma who on the phone who said, do it like this? Or the one that actually followed the directions and made it happen? Everybody have an opinion on who made it happen. I would say both. But some people would say, nah, she still cooked it because she told you what to do. Okay. And so that's the people that take the position that should. But then the people be like, nah, the person that did it is the one that made it happen. It's all about your take on things.
Yes. I mean, so speaking of take, I want to ask your take on a couple of things. We heard you speak slightly in an interview on the time when, Tupac's music and stuff got leaked, and there was a lot of stuff that got leaked out. And C Murder actually sort of redone a Tupac song, and there was a lot of flack for like guys like Master P and others for, some would say they were replicating Pac. Yuck Mouth was taking a lot of shots. The Realist was dissing those guys on the Chronic album and a few other albums. What was your sort of stance on it and all that going on there?
Well, my stance was following the sergeant's direction. And that's what Suge was, where his mindset was at the time. And that's how guys got placements on the album, because they knew where his head space was. And say, hey, they did a song about this or this. Trying to play it over the phone and letting listening to it through the phone and all of that. And he gave a stamp of approval to the concept of what was going on. I'm sure once he got out and actually visual some things, he probably would have wanted it to go a different way or came out a different way. But that's what that was the hand we had to deal with. And sometimes when that's all you got to deal with, you got to just play your cards. And that's what we did.
Right. Yep.
Got to play your cards best you can.
No, definitely. Know when to hold them and know when to fold them.
Gotta know when to hold them.
Yep.
Know when to fold them. Kenny Rogers.
Yeah, it's some classic stuff there, right there, man. So, I mean, sort of not to stick around that time, but just lastly on that album, we did have some people that also chimed in, and they said there was an artist introduced called Milkbone. Was he like a replica to, take Eminem's spot? And there was some incident with Eminem at the Source Awards or something.
Yeah, I mean, M, you gotta remember, is a cool dude. He's a comedian. He ain't that out there trying to be no gangbanger or no tough guy or anything. This man talking about killing this, riding around with his mama, with his baby mama in the car dead, and killing his mama and stuff, and all of that. So, or mom on drugs or whatever. I don't know. But him just a comedian, being funny. And so there was incidents, but sometimes when you get attacked for who you're associated with. And that's all that happened with him. He was just associated with Dre now. The tag was on them, and he got associated with them. Other than that, him was considered a great artist to us.
And Milkbone was never brought in as like somebody to rival Eminem or anything.
We tried some things that backfired on us. I call them the gimmick artists. They get mad when I'm talking about him. The Milkbone. my boy the realist, Tupac, and then my boy Top Dog YGD has been a Snoop. The correct word is gimmick, but nobody likes that word, and they get offended, and they probably pissed at me about it, but that's what it was. And I'm saying that it was unfortunate that we tried that with them because they were great artists in their own mind, and probably would have been successful if we would have just let them be who they were.
Mm.
Whether they got a shot or not with Death Row, that's another thing, because they probably wouldn't have got the position or got the shine that they got. But they got the opportunity. The public said no, and when the public speaks,
I know
you better
it's sort of
listen.
a catch-22. I mean, with the realist, we do hear a lot of stories where people say that he was around just before Pac had passed, and he was sort of given the clearance, sort of, so people sort of say he's his own man in one sense, because what I always found interesting about the realist was so many of Pac's affiliates all did work with him and stuff, like the Outlaws. They had many tracks with him, Yup Mouth, many tracks with him and all these guys. So it was like nobody seemed to have a problem musically doing stuff with him, if that makes sense.
You got to put timetables on that. Got to put timetables on that. Because you didn't see that in 99, 2000 and all that. All of this is later because he's a cool dude and eventually grew on people. But in 98, 99, 2000, he was a hard sell to people.
Okay. Yeah, no, I could see that. I mean, shout out to the greatest. I definitely want to reach out to him at some point and hear from him, the vigilante. He definitely put down some solid songs, and some people are still knocking to him now. I think you put it right when you said that they got a bad rap ultimately from just the label perhaps playing into some of the characteristics and stuff with other artists. I mean, speaking of other artists that never really got to get the run with Death Row, what we heard about, I don't know if you might be able to give us any information on them. It was reported at one point that a UK artist, Mark Morrison, notably known for Return of the Mac, had some kind of dealings with Death Row Records.
Well, actually, there was a guy that I developed a relationship out there. His name was, and shout out to Ron Winter. I don't know if he's still alive. He had a company called Ritz Music Group. I talked to him about 5 or 6 years ago, and he wasn't well then, and he was letting his son James run the company. But it's Ron Winter Production, Ritz Music Company, and he was from the UK, and he is the one that actually had to deal with them, and we had like some type of deal with him where he had the exclusive rights to distribute our catalog over there.
Okay.
Love him like a brother, but he's a shady and a hard businessman. I didn't play fair with a lot of the business, but other than that, Ron's a good dude. So I hope he's doing well, and I hope he's still with us. So if anybody know, have him reach out to me. If anybody over there in the UK that know how to get a hold of Ron Winters or his son James, I appreciate it. But that's who had the relationship with
Mark Morrison.
With them, yes.
Okay. And what about the East Coast rapper K Solo?
K Solo was around and was doing stuff. He never really blew up or got out there with us just because of timing, just because of the way the catalog was and all that. But it was a cool dude. Okay. Don't have no major stories, negative or positive, about K Solo.
And we had another one which was years later. I'm not sure if you had any involvement, but it was another East Coast big dog, Lakey the Kid.
What was his name?
Lakey the Kid. Lake. He used to be rap with Nas and Cormega, Queensbridge kind of guy. But
okay.
It was it was probably years later when they was trying another incarnation of Death Row East.
Oh, okay. That could have been. I wasn't aware. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great how the label just evolved over the years and still was able to keep a platform for not only emerging talent, but helping talent come back and relaunch their careers. Some of them, I guess, tried it as well, but it didn't really go to the way that they would have wanted it to, like MC Hammer. And you also had Nina, who came in and she was working on her stuff, and it didn't really get to go down.
Yeah. It was a tip. It was a tip. It was just timing. Everything's about timing, and unfortunately, I guess we had our run at the beginning, and towards the end, timing just wasn't hitting for us. But guess what still sells? The ones from the beginning.
The ones always gonna be timeless. I mean, we've had another question that was off the back of an interview that we did with Big 12 from the No Limit Soldiers, who spoke on just some of the incident at, I guess, the I Got the Hook Up Comedy Jam, where they say, you know, I guess Snoop got into an incident with some of his former friends and ended up getting chased into a police car and stuff. Now, we heard Suge speak about this slightly on the documentary, and I remember Suge, there was a huge campaign back in the day, and when he bought in Crooked Eye, and they had Crooked Eye dropping the disses to Snoop, and he went on the website, and they had on the Death Row website.
The dog barking.
Yeah. So, but now that we got you out here, we've got to ask you just from your stance if you have any memories of that situation.
Well, it didn't quite happen like that. It was actually me and some of the homies went to go talk to him, and he was high and very mouthy, very opinionated that particular day. And I detailed it on Bomb first, so if anybody want to go check it out, listen to the stories. But basically, somebody slapped him. Him, Dash, and this other producer named Superfly took off running towards the police. And they ran straight to the police, got arrested because they had a bunch of weed in their pockets. And so that's all that happened. There was nothing more than that. Because of the commotion and being at a concert and people screaming and yelling and running, that caused a bigger commotion. How, panic start. But as far as Snoop danger or anyone being any major danger, it wasn't like that. Other than the the panic that you get from people running, which can the trampede can cause and be more dangerous than the actual act that would have taken place. Is all that took place.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's good to get your detail because, as you said, you detailed it wide around Bomb Fest, which people can check out. But sometimes people make the assertions that Death Row was setting these things up, and because they had the security and they had the police and they had this and they had that. And I mean, I suppose you dealt with a lot of criticism like that throughout your career and stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't nothing about the police or this. They were way outnumbered of us. It was their event, their show, their backstage, their green room, and it was probably a total of 6 of us, if that, total. It's just Snoop, Dash, and Superfly seen those 6 guys before and knew their get down, and that's probably what put a lot of fear into their hearts. But like I said, the problem at that particular night or situation was the trampede, or the reaction more than the action.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned Daz quickly. Did anybody within the company ever notice that on the Chronic album, he actually shouted out No Limit on one of the songs that he did, even though there was diss tracks on there? Now, somebody else said in the comments of one of the videos that we did that there was a version that they had where that was taken out. But so I don't know if anybody actually noticed that he bigged them up on one album as well.
That he did what?
He had shouted "No Limit" out on the same, pretty much on the same album that it was being dissed at. Yeah.
No, I didn't.
He must have snuck it in. Boy.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, that's
And like I said, we let people be with their beef. If they had a beef, then fine. And if you didn't have no beef, that's on you. But yeah, that was definitely an oversight. I have to listen to it to determine if it was cool or if it was not.
yeah.
But we didn't have no problem with No Limit Soldiers. It was actually, like I said, just situations that went down. But Master P was always cool and respected among us. So
Yeah, no,
I wouldn't
definitely.
be surprised.
He always used to send, even in a lot of his songs, he would always send shout outs to Death Row and stuff. And it was always, I think, courteous towards Death Row. I never really heard him speak about him in a negative light. This has just seemed to come somewhat from the Death Row side. I know the Realist had a few tracks that he was dissing C Murder and Mobb Deep and a few others, but
Well, we'll do ours commercially. They were doing their stuff underground. There's a lot of different discs out there. And that tribute song that y'all call a tribute song, or C Murder don't call a tribute song, we took that as a straight disc, rapping Pac, lyrics word for word, especially when you don't give him credit musically as far as publishing and writer's credit. He took it to, and that don't say Tupac's publishing company on the back. That say C Murder Publishing Company on the back. And so, no, don't. Death Row get the jacket, but Death Row ain't the only one that did things wrong in those situations.
yeah, no, I hear you. I think sometimes Death Row looked at, sometimes, as I said, they get the bad rap, but a lot of the fans and a lot of people, they still love that about Death Row because they attribute just that rider sort of mentality, the ones that are willing to kind of go against the grain and speak upon things that others don't. They see that from Death Row, just that kind of energy always being carried out. One of the things I wanted to ask you about just before we wind down, are you familiar with the distribution deal that was going to be put together with Jay Prince, Suge Knight, and Gotti?
Yeah, I was around when they should have been talking about that prior to. That's what the whole Machiavelli records, Hammer Time records,
Wow.
Doggy Style records, and all that. He was trying to be, at that time it was 6 majors, and he was trying to be number 7. I remember he was talking about calling it Lucky 7. I said, why you want it to be Lucky 7? Because these motherfuckers lucky to be able to get a deal. But that's when he was trying to get all the black distributors at the time. I mean, not distributors, independent labels, to go try to, don't do no deals. Don't extend your deals with these companies. And let's go and try to be a distributor on our own and distribute our own stuff. And that's when, unfortunately, right after that, he went to jail. So he came home talking it. And now it's 2003, 2004, when he got Irv here and Jay Prince here and was talking about doing it. But now none of the three really have that juice like they did in the mid 90s.
Mm.
And Irv really, Irv didn't have any juice at the time, in the mid 90s, but it was mainly Puffy and Prince and somebody else that was black that was real known. Wasn't Master P deal. It might have been Russell Simmons that he was trying to talk to. But all of them had pretty much lost their juice in the mid 2000s. And that's when Jay Prince and Irv and Suge, he reinvented that conversation. But you'll find out once people start dealing in their deals. Number one, they don't own 100% of their company, and then number two, those distributors be having them wrapped up for a long period of time, and so it would have never had happened. It was just all really talk or smoke.
Okay, so it wasn't that it was shut down by the powers that be, because people say at the same time was when Man, the Brink got shut down and raided, and some stuff happened with Jay Prince and them, and same with Sugar.
And it could have been a coincidence. I don't believe in coincidences, but that's what they want to blame it on. And it sounds good, but I would love to see their deals at the time, whether their deals were up, whether they could got out of those deals anyway.
Welcome. Well, I mean, that's why it's great to have you on there, because you help us dispel a lot of, conspiracy and stuff that's out there. Another thing that people have asked about is Wack 100. Was he actually around you guys back in the day?
He was around as really just a homeboy just coming around. That's in from like 99 or 2000 before Suge came on, because he was mainly with me and cool with me. But because he was around because of a guy named Pooh Ryder that was in prison with Suge that came home, that Suge sent me home to hire to employ. But in 2003 or 2004, Miss Sugar got a little close, but he was never one that shit would be taken into meetings and stuff like that purposely. No. But he was around just soaking up game and learning, being a businessman. Like I said, you get OJT, you get on the job training once you just sitting around and just listen, and you learn stuff if you're a businessman. If you got a businessman a man that runs McDonald's can run the Sizzlers restaurants, or I don't know, whatever big food chain y'all got out there. If you got a business mind, you can do it. It's all about just putting people in place to do things. And so people think just because your specialty is music or media, that's all you know. You can go run a McDonald's, right? Yeah. You can go run. You can go run other companies. Yeah, you still got your business skills. Just because you got your own, just because you elected to do it this way, don't mean you just limited to run a business, that one particular business. You might be better at running something engineering company or a music-based company or a web design company or something like that. But you still could tell a motherfucker how to fry some burgers and fries.
I get you. OJT, on-job training, that's definitely one to consider. Lastly, before we wind down, I think that is a nice segue, because when we look at, I guess, somebody who's getting some new training now is Snoop Dogg with the acquisition of Death Row. Although it's not particularly new, he did have his stint with Doggy Style Records and stuff before.
Doghouse Records.
Was it Doghouse? Okay, Doghouse. I stand corrected. Thank you. And
I do it too. Don't trip.
But
that's why I love people with Google. I be like, you motherfuckers got Google, so y'all think y'all know everything.
And sometimes Google wrong too.
You just speaking off the top of your head, but what you remember. No. And they tear you up, take your word, be like you the baddest thing, just because they look up Google. Yeah. But go ahead.
I'll try to tell them I'm only human, man, so I will make some mistakes. But I was just saying, I guess with his management of the label, I know a lot of people are heralding it now and saying that he's going to do a great job for the new artists. You even mentioned it, I guess, on one of your interviews on Bob First and stuff as well, that he's had situations in the past where he has been managing his own label, and did he do the same thing that he was probably complaining about others doing in the industry? So is he going to do much different with how things are?
Well, I said hopefully. Now, don't misquote me now. I said hopefully he learned, because now we older, and he done learned from those mistakes, and he won't do those same mistakes over. Is all my point was. Yeah, when he was younger, and back then he did the same mistakes that we allegedly done or was accused of doing. But now that he's older, more experienced, that he will learn from those mistakes, and he won't make those same mistakes, is the point that I was trying to make.
Yeah, okay. Well, I think definitely that's important, and I think it's one thing, especially as things continue to develop, we don't want to see a continuation in the community of people doing the same things over and over again and not learning. That's one thing that we always advocate on here, is always to give messages back to whether it's young people, whether it's just people out there so they can learn something from other people who have had rich and valuable experiences like yourself. So we definitely appreciate you taking the time to tap in and extend some of that insight with us. Lastly, I guess we got to ask you, because we've got you on here, and we should be, I don't want to say give too much away, hopefully having an interview coming up soon, possibly with Greg Caden, who released the Murder Rap sort of thing. Now, this is such a polarizing situation, just obviously the Tupac murder, and he was the guy who allegedly recorded Keefy D and all that stuff. I mean, we hear so many rumors. We hear rumors online that people insinuate that you had some kind of thing to do with Suge and this and that. You know, people are always throwing stuff out there and that. Do you think that this murder rap is the full on, this is the actual narrative, most accurate to what's happened?
That's what I believe. That's what I tell people when they ask me about it. That's my belief. I would bet my life on it that 98% of what he said in that documentary is accurate. I ain't gonna say 100. Maury don't tell you 100% that that's your daddy, but he said 99.9 or 99.6. That's your daddy, and that usually is your daddy, your son. So, but yeah, I believe that.
I think out of all the documentaries and stuff that have been put out over the years, it's probably been one of the most well put together and researched and stuff with the information. So
yeah, I got an idiot running around there, Nick Broomfield.
You remember Nick Tupac? I was talking to Mo Prima about that interview the other day. I remember that documentary.
Yeah. You been shout out Mo Prima. I hope he's doing well.
Yeah, definitely. Peace to Mo Prima. Peace to Dr. Matulu. He said that they're still trying to plead for compassionate release at the minute. They're holding him up. You know, they're trying to hold him to 2024. But he's quite terminal at the minute, I believe. So they're trying to really push to get things moving forward for him. So prayers up to the Shakur family and stuff as well.
Okay. Respect. Good. I wish them the best with that. Yeah.
No doubt, bro. So, Reg, before we wind out, we usually ask people 5 names, and then if you just give us just the first thing that comes to your head after these 5 names, whether it's just your experience of the person or any insight. So, number 1, we have Chocolate Bandit.
Chocolate Bandit, the original writer of the song "I'm Country," that a guy named Doobie tried to make y'all think he wrote. But Chocolate Bandit is the writer of that song, Country.
Okay. Next up, we got Lil C Style.
Lil C Style, a unique voice. If you ever listen to that voice and hear his voice, he got a grown man voice and a little man body. But doing life in prison right now for murder, and I wish him nothing but just the best. But a good dude.
Next up, we got another legend, rest in peace, Hussein Fatal.
Hussein Fatal. Wow, child, problem child. That's problem child. But he's a writer, and he was a good dude, and he was loyal and loved Pac. The best outlaw lyrically, some would say. I'm lean more towards Gaddafi. But a lot would say Fatal was the best outlaw. So, yeah.
Okay, next up, we got number 4, Ja Rule.
You say Ja Rule?
Yeah.
Ja Rule, good dude. Him and Fabulous, you think of guys that had females on their hooks, on their songs, and did very well during a time when it was popular for females to sing on rappers' hooks. Is what I think when I think of Ja Rule and Fab.
No doubt. And the last one we have is Crooked I.
The most talented lyricalist rapper that never became a household name that should have.
Death Row, you guys really introduced me to Crocodile and stuff as well. And then I always thought when I first heard him, I thought, damn, this guy, retired. I listened to a lot of East Coast rapper stuff too, but his levels, was up there.
Yeah.
So I'm glad he got some further shine years later as well. Additionally,
Still not a household name though.
But still, I know we didn't get to. It's a strange one that is how come and you got the right guys behind him, but
yeah.
Well, anyway, Reg, we appreciate your time. Before we wind down, do you want to let anybody know your social media stuff where they can check you out, or are you?
I'm not active on social media on IG and Facebook. Well, Facebook just for family and stuff, but I'm not that big on social media. But bomb first every day.
Yeah, we definitely.
Come check out the YouTube channel. You'll learn some Death Row history. If you really, really want to know, go check out Bomb First YouTube channel.
No doubt, man. So salute the whole Bomb First team and all the stuff you guys have been doing, not just recently, but for years. You guys had the website way back and was putting up a lot of powerful information and keeping people abreast.
That's my boy John Highland.
Okay, shouts out to him, man.
Also want to shout out my boy Andre, the boy that hooked us up together, Branch.
Yep, Floss Mode. Yeah, definitely shouts out to Andre, man. Floss, man. Salute. And we appreciate you out here in the UK. We're going to be tapping into Bomb First all day, every day, as usual. Ain't nothing got to change. So we appreciate you lacing us with some game, and hopefully we can hook back up again in the future at some point.
Much respect, brother.
Salute. So this is your boy Fonzie representing for BattleOnline.com. Once again, family, salute, support. This has been Reggie Wright Jr. Peace.
Peace.
Peace, family. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and check us out on BattleOnline.com. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook for exclusive playlists and social media for all different types of segments and content.